Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast. And welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
Let's get an Innawoods thread going. 1850s farmhouse. Set up a weird 2 bedrooms and bath on the bottom floor, kitchen and dining room on top. On the side of a steep limestone hill, so the back door on the second floor is level with the ground. Thick woods surrounding the area. Beer has been drunk, chillin' upstairs. Hear a tap on the back door. No biggie, probably a tree branch. Dog's ears perk up, then he starts whining. 2 taps, loud and sound like something pointed hitting the door. Dog is now silent and shaking, crawls behind the couch. You ain't getting to 3. Grab a shotgun and throw open the back door. Bushes and trees being rustled. Tell whatever it is to get gone. Suddenly, no noise. No owls, doves, or bugs. Not even wind. This smell hits me like blood and water, really thick. Hear 4 distinct crunches in the brush. Shine flashlight into the bushes. It was a human face, but something was wrong with it. It was low to the ground, almost as if someone was lying on the ground with their head strained up to look. It's looking at me, but not directly, almost at my chest. Face was pale, plain, but with a small, almost serene smile. Notice it's not connected to a body, not human anyway. Thin-legged, pale, deer-like body. Neck is aimed toward the ground, just ends in the face. I couldn't move, couldn't believe what I was seeing. Face doesn't change, but its hair starts to stand up on it. Finally get feeling back in my body, realizing it's going to charge. Book it back into the house, slam and lock the door. No noise. Stand up, notice something in the corner of my eye. Window next to the door, that serene face, staring at me but not at me. I vaguely remember slumping to the floor in front of the window and staring at the thing. The eyes were steadily growing wider, until I could see white all the way around the black irises. For 6 hours I sat like this. Just as suddenly as it came, it disappears back into the darkness. A bird chirp is so loud to my ears that it jolts me out of my trance. Notice I had at some point unloaded my shotgun and put it out of reach. Sun rises. Look outside the window. Variety of bones and decaying wildlife piled up outside the door and scattered around the backyard. Run to my truck with the dog and never speak of this to anyone. Your turn.
I got one, not the usual spoopy skinwalker stuff either. Just some really weird shit. Before I go on, here's a little background. Where I live, we have very few woods due to the high winds beating the ever-loving shit out of the trees, etc. The trees at the front of my place now have been replaced 3 times before the saplings finally made it through a winter, and even then some of them died off the following year, leaving 3 or 4 good trees. So obviously any wooded areas we have are often well-traveled. Well, this place is no exception, and I've visited it a few times since these incidents and many times before it happened, and now to the feature presentation of spoops. Around 15 years old at the time, Mom and brother are going to walk the dog, Jack, and want to know if I want to come along. Nah, GameCube is much more interesting. Play Vidya Budokai 2 is kicking my ass. Mom and brother come home, oddly quiet. Brother goes straight upstairs and hangs around in his room. Ask Mom how the walk was while she's hosing off the dog in the garden. Says it was nice. Shame about all the muddy trails. Oddly short and non-talkative. Me and Mom are pretty close because she raised us both by herself. Later that night, after my brother had gone to bed, me and Mom are watching some crap on TV when she finally turned to me. "Anon, I didn't want to talk about this while your brother was around because it really spooked him, but I want your opinion about this. Basically, the walk was pretty typical until they got to the thicker part of the woods, the part that most Sunday walkers, etc. don't bother with because it's all overgrown and has no paths. Says they kept going on because why the hell not, the dog isn't tired yet, and it's still only 2 p.m. Eventually, my brother calls to Mom and tells her to look up into this big tree, so she does, and right towards the top, there are these black, mangled-looking things all up in the branches. Look like rubbish bags all tangled up in the branches. It's just some crap that's been caught in the wind, come away from that shit. No, Mom, bags don't have feathers and beaks. The hell is he talking about? All around the base of the tree my brother is standing by is blood and feathers. It dawns on my mom that the black things are actually 10 or more crows impaled on branches. Little weirded out, but then again, they could just be the victims of severe weather. After all, it is mid-autumn. Now at this point, my brother is more curious than scared. He's got a pair of balls the size of beach balls and still does to this day. Brother starts climbing the tree because holy shit, a literal murder tree is cool. Doesn't get that high up before he starts climbing down again. All this time, the dog hasn't done anything but sit next to my mom, which is weird because usually he's off sniffing around trying to find rabbits or pheasants to kill. Brother reaches the bottom and tells my mom that some of the branches are sharpened, like with a knife or something, into crude stakes, but they're still attached to the tree. Odd as shit, decide to go back to the trails because it's getting cold, etc. In reality, Mom was just making excuses because she didn't want to be around that tree anymore. On the way back to the trail, Brother leaps out of his skin as a small tree falls into their path. Tree has several sharpened branches, some blood with fur still visible on them. Nope. Mom sticks the lead on the dog, and all three of them start booking it back to the trails. Now my mom isn't one to make shit up, and I asked my brother about it the next day on the way to school. His retelling of it was basically the same as Mom, only with one other detail. The reason he came down from the tree was he thought he saw someone sitting in one of the other trees nearby, and it scared the hell out of him. He didn't bother telling Mom because he thought she'd just laugh at him. Well, me being the bored 15-year-old with an interest in the things that may or may not bump in the night, I decided to lead an expedition to the murder tree. The expedition crew consisted of me and 3 of my easily convinced friends who had nothing better to do that day. We will now introduce them. M, the oldest of the group, used to babysit me and my brother before Mom finally relented on me telling her I don't need looking after I'm 13. G, same age as me, not really into the spookums but decided a good walk in the clean air sounded nice. T was constantly trying to prove how cool and tough he was, so it was natural for him to try and swing his balls around and come with us. Get a lift to the woods with one of their parents, I think it was G's dad. Rip. Usual shit, throwing stones into the small stream, looking for decent clubs to beat back crazy murder tree men. Get to the end of the trail, suddenly realize I have no clue where the murder tree is. So after many minutes of me being called a dumbass, we decide that a tree covered in animal corpses can't be that hard to find. Keep looking up mainly to try and spot crows, etc. Impaled on branches, but also because of what my brother said. Not exactly being very quiet about it. G and T are quoting lines from Predator, while me and M are yapping about parties we're going to and how shit we are at keeping quiet. Next thing I hear is G telling us to come have a look at this. Sprint over thinking he's found the tree, but clearly what he's found is a pretty neat-looking shelter made out of long stretches of branches bound together with twine and covered in evergreen branches. Little tree stump just inside the shelter like a wee table or something. Notice it looks pretty fresh, hasn't died off yet, still has that orangey white color to the inside of the stump. See some sharpened sticks, but no evidence of anyone using this as anything but a hangout. Area around it was free of leaf litter, like someone had cleared it on purpose. No way anyone was living out here in this shitty little lean-to. They'd be a soggy mess first rain of winter. Move on after that brief excitement, this time being a little quieter. M tells us when he was about 6 he thought fairies lived in these woods, and that's why the trees stood up to the wind. It's actually just in a valley between 2 massive hills far away from the coastal winds that harass us all winter. Starting to get a little bored of wandering the woods when we finally find the murder tree. Sure enough, there are crows all mangled and impaled in the tree. But it's not like I imagined. This tree is a good 30 feet tall, so how did so many crows end up dying the same shitty way, and why are they only on the top third of it? So we stand around talking about it, and the best we can come up with is that the wind blew them into the tree, and then they all got a case of really bad splinters. But some of the branches are sharpened into points like stakes, just as my brother said. Start scanning the trees. Every time I look at a new tree, my heart is poised to explode if I happen to meet someone's gaze or see the outline of something big in the trees. I haven't mentioned that part to any of the expedition crew because they'd say I was full of shit, and I promised my brother I wouldn't say a thing anyway. So we decide to trot off a little further in and eat our packed food, because we're getting hungry and want to discuss this odd situation some more. Lunch is uneventful. Everyone, including me, wusses out of climbing said tree due to the risk of being stabbed on a branch, getting crow residue all over our hands. We start heading off towards the underbrush past the murder tree to see if we can find any more trees like this. After another round of Predator jokes and arguing over Arnold's best film and why did Terminator 3 have to suck so much, we start smelling this awful stink. Now I know what you're all thinking, her skinwalker story, her, but bear with me. G informs us that it legitimately smells like something died somewhere nearby. Having smelled rotting animals and people before in my lifetime, I agree with him. The other two don't know what to think. Thus, the hunt for the great stinky dead thing began. We were beating the brush with sticks to clear away ferns, etc., so we could see things on the ground clearer. We shouldn't have bothered. T found it wedged into some rocks. It's a sheep, at least what is left of a sheep. Really, it's more like a skin and some bones, like someone had cleaned it and taken all the good bits and left the rest here. But my God, it stank. Fighting back the urge to spray my lunch all over the woods, we manipulated the sheep husk with our sticks and eventually freed it. There was a whole bunch of dead shit underneath it in various stages of decay. I'm not a pathologist, but some of it looked like it had been there for ages, all black and slimy looking. Could make out some beaks and what might be a rabbit, etc. Okay, spookums are engaged. As Hicks would say, Marines, we are leaving. Start heading back to the trail, not saying a word. M, with his stilt legs, has taken the lead. Suddenly, T breaks the silence by informing us he's left his shit where we ate. Tell him to leave it. It's just fucking Tupperware, you mug. But it's his mother's Tupperware, and she'll kill him if he doesn't bring it back. Plus, he needs his pack for school, too. It's fine. Let's go marching back for your mom's Tupperware, and try not to end up stuffed into a rocky alcove with that bastard sheep. Get back to the place we ate lunch at. T goes to grab his bag and jumps about 10 feet into the air while calling up the name of God Almighty. What's that? Walk over to him and tell him to stop prating about. Notice he's gone ashen-colored. In the fucking bag, Anon. Look in the fucking bag. Inside his bag is a dead crow. Nope mode is now at a critical level. Notice the Tupperware is sitting off into the brush a little. Grab Tupperware, grab T, tell him he's going to need a new bag, and all four of us just start booking it out of there. Roll my ankle going over a fallen tree. Pace has to slow as M and T help me hobble along while G keeps an eye out for trouble. G squawks like a parrot, tells us he just saw someone moving in the trees at the top of the slope. Pick up the pace a bit. M and T are basically dragging me at this point. Next thing we know, a figure steps out of the bushes right into our path. We're gonna die here. It's a typical looking local man, only he's got a double barrel broken across the crook of his arm. Can clearly see the thing is loaded. For a second, he just stares at us with a hardened expression. Then his face softens slightly. You kids shouldn't be running around the woods without an adult, or you could run into mischief, as you already know, he says after looking at M and T propping up my hobbled ass. We ask him what he's doing in the woods this far off the trail too. Says he came out here looking for his sheep because someone busted into his byre and took one of them. Said he found a hole in his fence that backs onto the woods and decided to go take a look. With a shotgun? We ask. Says he took it along in case he got the chance to take a pop at some pheasants or geese on his way back across the fields. Sure thing. I've seen people do that many a time. Offers to walk us back to his place and call our folks. Turns out he knows G's dad, who's a vet. Ankle is swollen. I took 2 days off school because it was so bad I couldn't walk. That's pretty much it. We never really talked about it after a few weeks. T's mom was pissed at him for losing his bag, but I never told my mom what happened. Been back a few times. Since then, the place has been opened up further in with new trails way past where the murder tree was. I'm not sure of what was going on in those woods, but I think there was a killer in the making hanging around. Until the bag thing, I was willing to put it all up to coincidence, but I honestly do think someone was fucking with us. This is a small, sheltered place, but every now and again people go missing or end up dead or murdered. Never any Christians though, and theft is almost non-existent.
Oregon. Hiking early in the morning. I usually hike alone, and there aren't many known predators in the area like bears or mountain lions, so I don't feel unsafe at all. Nod and say good morning to a guy on my way to the trailhead. Snap some shots of the trailhead sign before continuing. Start on the trail, and not even 2 minutes in, I get a sudden feeling of dread. Brush it off. Sun's already up, and it's the golden hour. Can't miss the awesome photo op. Continue into the woods, taking pics of the trees. Hear footsteps behind me. Look back, but there's nobody there. Whatever, it's nothing. Snap some shots of the scenery. Continue down the path when I get these mad chills and an overwhelming feeling of dread. WTF, man. Decide it's best just not to go on this hike alone. Get in the car, still trembling like I was just shoved into a freezer. Take a while to warm up and stop shivering. I still have no idea what it was that made me stop that hike. There was nothing out of the ordinary, and I don't have any sort of condition that causes me to just quake like that. Doctor didn't find anything wrong. Better yet, none of the photos I took were on the card when I checked it after I got home. Just one photo was on my SD card, and it wasn't anything I remember taking. Pic is related. I went on a pretty well-known hike on Iron Mountain. If you've never been, it's pretty much just dark greens, especially for the time of year I went, which was spring. It was pretty damp, and the light was polarized. Yet the only pic to come out on my camera had washed out colors.
Don't really post here, just lurk, but I will contribute this green text. Be me. 16 years old, meet up with an old school friend I haven't seen in years. Things are kind of awkward. Very little for us to talk about. Anon, have you been to the greenhouse? No idea what he's talking about. He takes me down to the forest out back behind my house. No idea how he even knows about this place. He lives a good few hours away. Walk through this forest for about 5 minutes until we reach this dilapidated greenhouse. Place is smashed open on every side, glass everywhere. Full of this old unwanted trash. There's everything from children's books to VHS tapes. Seems like a pretty cool place, but even in broad daylight, you sort of got the feeling that you probably shouldn't really be fucking around there for no reason. Look through some of the random stuff scattered around before we get bored and leave. Comes to mind some months later when I'm talking with another friend of mine. Ask him if he's ever seen this greenhouse. Of course he hasn't. I take him there to see it. It's early evening on a summer's day, pretty visible. He wants to explore more of the area. Further up from this greenhouse are about 4 buildings, old farmhouse-type structures. Few oil tanks, a small sort of windmill-type thing that doesn't move. One of the buildings is open. After about 15 minutes of arguing whether we should go in or not, etc., we both decide to go in. Inside is this dimly lit area with bedding all over the floor and small cabinets on either side of the room. Birthday cards on either side. At least 25 cards, all with cats on them. There's a tin of cat food open with a fork inside it. Hear a car pull up outside. Nope the hell out there. Run back to the clearing outside of where we entered the greenhouse. Hear something else, literally sprinting after us. Semi-old-looking man emerges, yells at us to stop. Don't ever come here again. There's nothing here for you. And we didn't.
Back in late 2005, early 2006, just moved to a backwoods part of Maine. Lonely house in a heavily wooded area. The next house was maybe half a mile away or longer, it seemed. First couple of nights there with Mum. Her big giant bed hasn't come from the movers yet, so we share a bed for now. Late night rolls around, and we look outside at the stars and how nice they look. Realize how pitch black it is. We moved from Boston and were used to noises and lights, not this kind of quiet. Go to sleep, or try to. We both wake up to a bunch of small bumps and sounds through the night. Eventually, I woke up around 2 or 3 by how unusually quiet it became. Like no animal's quiet. It was as quiet as it was black, compelled to get out of bed and check all the locks to make sure everything was shut tight throughout the house. About to head downstairs. Hear a blood-curdling man's scream erupt from the woods. Mum wakes up in a panic. I retreat to the room and lock the door. Mum and I stay awake until dawn. Later in the morning, we find huge footprints leading up to the spot just under where our window is on the grass below. We were sleeping on the 2nd floor.
Living in Brainerd, Minnesota. Last fall, before it started getting really cold, a friend invites me to go camping up in some forest up north. I'm no outdoorsman, but I agree. It's a long trek up there, get some food in Duluth, and then leave civilization behind. We set up camp. It's a really beautiful place, remote, next to a lake. We set up camp, spend a few hours dicking around. At one point, we laugh our asses off like assholes over a dumbass joke. Buddy asks me to head out and get some more firewood while he gets dinner ready. I head out. It's a really beautiful spot, so I walk out for a bit just exploring before I bother getting any wood. Think I hear something. Brush moving, twigs snapping. Smells like hot, rancid garbage all of a sudden. I figure it's a skunk or a dead animal and hurry up to get branches and shit. I suddenly hear what sounds like a man getting strangled in the middle of a laughing fit. Screw this .jpg. Spin around on my heel, start running back towards camp. Ram face first into something. It's a head taller than me and pale as shit. Too shocked to make out any details. Reach to my side, pull out my trusty fillet knife, and let loose 6'4" worth of fear-powered blue-collar stabbing into this thing. Can't remember what happened past this point. Just spotty memories. I remember walking back to camp vaguely. I remember laughing my ass off over having dealt with that thing. Barely remember anything else. I know me and my buddy got out of Dodge that night instead of spending the night. By the time I gather my wits, we're on our way home. Texting and calling my friends and parents and shit, I was pumped about heading back home. Buddy drops me off. I remember he seemed really awkward and left in a hurry, didn't even come in. Hole up in my apartment, spend hours just watching YouTube videos, shit like that. Just wanted to hear people talking to get my mind off the trip. Call off work the next day, don't even get any sleep. Watch a bunch of movies. Finally, I really checked myself. All I've got is a big gash on my thigh, already healing. I think I'm finally getting over it. I've been avoiding company for a few months, but that's not too unusual. Spending a lot more money on food, too. I used to eat a lot of rice and salads and shit, but I've been craving burgers and steaks and shit recently. I'm thinking about inviting some friends up north for a camping trip when the cold's over. I still feel like I have some unfinished business.
Be at girlfriend's parents' cabin in northern Minnesota. Decide to make use of this July night and do some fishing. In the cabin's backyard, there is a small lake. Sit on the dock and cast several times. But as figured, it turns into a make-out session. All of a sudden, she stops and whispers, "Do you hear that?" Listen closely and hear what sounds like a moaning in the distance. Both of us get up and look around. See across the lake a small, pale, yet putrid light. Then after staring at the light for a while, it gets bigger, coming at us and floating on the top of the water. We then happen to make out an appearance of an older woman. The moaning gets louder. Girlfriend books it, running into the cabin. Very loud screech, like an owl-hawk mix. Light gets brighter, almost silver-like. The apparition is screaming, getting closer and closer, much faster. After I come to my senses, I run into the cabin, lock the door, grab her dad's 410. Loud bang on the cabin door. The thing is still screaming at the top of its lungs, pounding on the door. The glow is bright, like someone's headlights are shining into the cabin windows. Shoot the 410 at the door, screeching and crying, sounding slowly more distant as every second passes. Light is getting dimmer and dimmer until pitch black in the cabin. We stayed there on the floor of the cabin till the morning. We told her dad of this, and they said they would hear crying in the woods. They also say there was someone murdered there a long time ago. A young woman was murdered, then her body dumped in the lake.
There is an old woodland a few miles from my house. If I remember correctly, it has been given some National Site of Interest status by the local govt. But anyway, it is ancient. This is in the UK, by the way. Quite a few years ago, when I was 17, I used to walk my old dog there, as she could run about freely, as very few people walked there due to its isolation. One early February morning, whilst walking the dog, she trotted off after a rabbit or something. I hadn't noticed, as I had been having a can of Coke and a piss. I heard a sizzling, rustling in the bracken about 30 yards away, and naturally assumed it was Boggles, my dog. As I got nearer, the rustling stopped, and I swear that a fairly bright ball of light about the size of a beach ball floated slowly upwards from behind some ferns. I flinched at first, as I thought that someone had kicked a football at me, but I then just watched slowly float to about 20 feet high. It stopped there for about 3 or 4 seconds and then shot away at an angle as fast as anything I have ever seen. Easily 100 miles per hour, plus I looked behind the bracken from where it had been, and there was just a few stones about the size of dinner plates and a single black, almost perfectly spherical pebble, which I picked up and kept. I gave the pebble to a girl whilst drunk a few years later, and I regret that. For what it's worth, the dog refused to walk there after that, and I tasted a metallic taste in my mouth for a week or two after and kept dreaming about large triangular sheets of wood and women's bead necklaces. Sincerely, I thought I was going insane.
I could give some OC just for the cause, not sure if paranormal, but it's strange at least. Live in northern Sweden. The ice has just melted on all the lakes. This is in the beginning of May 2013. We dust off our fishing gear and try to catch trout in minor ponds by a nearby lake. Fail in doing so. I've heard of 2 people in this village who have actually caught a trout here. We talk about going somewhere else, a more distant lake, with much less fishing activity. Not much of it was spoken of in the next couple of days, until me and my friends looked up some Bear Grylls and Survivormen episodes. Survivalist scenario, now please .flack. We talked about it with 3 others, so there were 6 of us in total. The weather had been nice to us, and we decided to head out into the forest the next day. Look up some maps of nearby places and find a very small water area 4 kilometers into pure forest. Next day, we pack our shit and head out early. The sun is shining, a bit cloudy in the distance. 25 minutes with the car, we park by the forest road and pass the only house in that area. We have heard of that guy before. Actually, I lived here when I was younger. Well, not in this very house, but a couple of kilometers further. A farmer's place with great fields and 90% forest. I was never allowed to enter the forest, probably due to my age. I was 6 when we moved away from there. Anyway, the 6 of us go into the forest and walk past the house, a bunch of dogs barking. The guy who lives there has actually built a cowboy saloon replica on the backside of his house. He's got horses tied to the poles, swing doors, whiskey brand signs on the walls, etc. Guy is crazy about American things, so it's true what we've heard. We follow a very muddy trail, with deeply sunken tractor tracks and shit. A lot of fallen trees on the road. About 3 kilometers in, the forest gets denser. The trail is somewhat visible. It's hard to tell what is the trail and what is not. Everything is muddy, and the ground is very wet. I actually got stuck for 20 minutes. My legs were sunk at least 1 meter into the ground, and my friends had to drag me out with rope. As we keep on going, we can see water. It's not as small as we imagined, but still small. We walked around the big puddle, small lake, and set up camp. We plan on staying here for 2 days, getting our own food. All we have is emergency sausage and shitloads of water. Nightfall comes. The walk was shit. Took so long crossing the swamp-like environment, and we're all pretty exhausted. Friends and I put out cigarettes, drink water, and just chill for a bit. We set up a camp that is big enough for 4 people and get a fire going. As it gets darker and darker, we hurry up with the last of the fir branches for ground isolation, and we end up around the fire whittling sticks and just having a good time, pick-related. We hear a bunch of breaking branches and stuff, nothing too serious. We don't mind it, although 2 of us are cowards and laugh at the smallest sound from the forest, shit scared. At our location, there's been a lot of reports going on about wolverines, lynx, wolves, and bears, not to mention moose. I actually hope to see the first 3 mentioned IRL. Already seen a bunch of moose. I hate them. The night goes on and we are all hungry. We haven't eaten at all during the day, and we decide to eat our emergency sausage. Across the lake are some very weird sounds, but with 10-minute intervals. 3 of us go to sleep, 3 of us sit around keeping the fire alive. We sleep in 2-hour shifts. The sun goes up at about 5 in the morning, but we can't see much. It's very foggy, can barely see across the tiny lake, which was later discovered to be a sunken bog. In other words, doesn't have fish in it, explains why we didn't get any. Now here's where the weird stuff happens. As it gets brighter in the morning and the fog gets heavier, we all wake up to the humidity and some annoying birds. We decided to get more firewood. 3 of us go left of the camp about 50 meters away, chopping with our axes and carrying it back. The other 3 went to the right side where the forest is at its densest. Me and the 2 others who went left have arrived back at the camp, getting the fire going. And if you listen, You can hear the other three talking in the distance. Suddenly, one of them comes back with a shocked look on his face, nervously laughing. He mentions some huge animal lurking about across the lake. Apparently, they had gone to the trail to chop some deadwood off the fallen trees in the way. We follow him and find the other two guys sitting on the ground, telling us to duck and be quiet. What? We hear nothing. As I said earlier, I'm very eager to see a wolverine or a lynx, so I sit there with them for 5 minutes or so. Most of us thought it must have been a moose or a deer being scared away by them. We decided to head back to camp. The fire has almost died due to the small branches we fed it before running off. As we put in more wood, one of us just drops all the firewood and points across the lake. What seems like a big, light green, tree-like creature is walking along the beach on the other side of the lake. I would have thought it was a large man in camouflage if it wouldn't have hovered or floated. We stop what we're doing, pack our stuff, and head back to the trail. As we look out across the bog lake, looking for the creature, I notice all the fog is gone. It's absolutely clear. We are walking fast, and everyone is talking, conspiring on what kind of thing we just witnessed. As we get to an opening, we take a few photos. Pick related, it's the bog, and notice how the fog is just at one side of it, like split up. It could be the America fanatic being crazy and stalking the people going by his house, if it's his property or something. Although we can't explain the fog and its stable movement, like it was standing still but floating around the trees. Another picture I have from the trip.
Story my stepdad told me a few years back. A little bit of background. The place he goes hunting at requires that you pass through a lot of different properties before getting to the one he stays at. You have to stop in front of a gate, open/pass through, and close it behind you before going to the next. The sleeping area is just a bunch of old campers around this central shelter that just has a gas stove and a fire pit for hanging out after hunting. Normally, the gate thing isn't a pain in the ass if you have someone in the car with you that can do the gate shit for you. But he was the only one to go out camping that weekend. First of 4 gates. Notice Lechuza, witch's owl, aka big-ass white owl, hanging out on a tree watching. Ignore it and head to the next gate. Same owl is hanging out near this gate too. Gate 3, owl came over to this gate, starting to get a little spooked. Gate 4, owl is there just watching. Stepdad yells at it, and it fucks off, unpacking and moving stuff into the camper since he's solo. Guess who's mean-mugging the shit out of him, big-ass owl? Fuck that owl, need to sleep. So the campers out there have no electricity, so only the screen door is left closed for fresh air. Note, really small camper, bed is right in front of the door. Uneasy, leave the pistol on the table next to the bed. Finally fall asleep. Around 3 a.m., hear shit walking around outside. Eerie feeling of being watched, starting to wake up more. Hear loud steps right outside the door, followed by that terrifying sudden silence. Wake up and realize it's motherfucking Goat Man standing there staring at me. Turn and grab the gun off the counter and aim at the door. Already gone. Noped out and left when the sun came up. Told wife and autistic stepson about Goat Man. Never went solo hunting again. He didn't say Goat Man, but Sweet Jesus was his description, terrifying. Head of the goat, torso of man, fucking goat legs.
Every word of this is true, so it's maybe not the most exciting story, but it's true. So this happened about 2002 or so. Me and a buddy wanted to do some cold weather camping. It was November, and temps had fallen into the 30s Fahrenheit. We are Southerners, so that's cold for us. Grab some whiskey, some heady nugs, and camping gear. Head to Nantahala. Nantahala, Nantu, Helu, NF is in the mountains of North Carolina. Some of the most beautiful mountain scenery in the eastern U.S., and one of the highest concentrations of waterfalls anywhere in the world. Lots of free campsites in this national forest. Simply pull off of forest roads, and many maintained sites exist with pads and fire rings. Great car camping if too lazy to be survivormen. Spend each night at a different site, have a blast, campfires, buzzes, fool ourselves into thinking we are hardy woodsmen. Third night, we pulled into the standing Indian camping area, Hurricane Creek primitive camping area. We were exhausted. Very windy, set up camp, full moon, great visibility. Weekday in coldish November means we are the only people there. No RVs, no ATVs, no tents. Only people for miles. Path leading up to ridge heads right out of our sight. Decide to stretch our legs with a little hike. Pal takes a knife, not gun nuts, and flashlight which we don't need 'cause of full moon brightness. Walk a few minutes, wind, trees, going straight to Bedlam. Bored, anon. Let's go back and make a fire. Okay. Walking back, wind still crazy. Wind absolutely dies down for a few seconds, not even a breeze. All of a sudden, hear a human gasp directly behind us. So close, as in a few inches behind us. Turn around, nothing, no one there. Friend pulls out a knife and makes some half-asses comments about not being scared of you. Flashlight also reveals nothing. Hurry back to camp, make fire. The rest of the night was exhausted nodding off, fire maintenance, and trying to stay on guard for the invisible gasper. But nothing else happened. It was only a couple seconds of terror. To this day, I know it wasn't the wind. Friend has since died. I figure if I ever hear that sound again, it will be him fucking with me.
Backpacking around the Superstition Mountains alone. Hadn't seen anyone for 2 days, completely alone. Found this weird-looking cave. Remember having a strange feeling about it, but I decided to check it out. Looked like someone had set up a camp inside the cave, but it hadn't seen any recent activity. Check out this large trunk with knife carvings all over it. There is a human hand in it, with decaying flesh on it, and a bunch of bones. Noped out of the cave and hiked back to my car. Got a hold of the nearby rangers and told them about the cave. Led them back there. They basically told me to keep my mouth shut about it, and they would handle it. That was the end of that. Don't know what happened after we got back and I left. Never went back.
I got one. I live in Florida, went hog hunting with a buddy. I had my VZ. 58, he had a Stevens 320 shotgun. Poor, but with slugs and good shot placement drops him with no problem. So we unfortunately never found any hogs, only tracks here and there, and didn't want to follow them into the swampy muck, so we said fuck it, and spent the day fishing and shooting beer cans. We are planning to spend the night and try our luck with the hogs tomorrow, so right around sundown we're cooking some fish we caught and start hearing the leaves crunching and branches breaking in the bushes around our camp, like some big motherfucker is trudging through the trees. My buddy and I are like, fuck yeah, the hogs came to us instead. So we go out to look around. We can't find shit, which is odd because something big was definitely moving. We say fuck it and head back to camp. And the remaining fish we had is gone, so we're like WTF, because we only went about 30 yards from our camp. My buddy suggested it was ninja hobos, but I'm a bit concerned. Later at night, we're sitting by the fire just talking and drinking when we hear something moving again, and this was incredibly stupid, we just started lighting up the bushes. I put 2 mags in the general direction of the noise, not sure about my friend, but I know he stopped to reload. So picture that scene from Predator, but on a smaller scale. Now our ears are ringing, our guns are hot, and we hear the most horrible scream I've ever heard, like an old lady mixed with a panther, mixed with a fucking demon, and loud as fuck too. We could hear it over our ears, ringing like crazy. Something books it through the trees. We see branches moving and hear shit snapping and moving away from our camp. We say fuck this and pack our shit in GTFO in the middle of the night. Fuck waiting till morning. We're too spooked. Sorry for the lack of punctuation, too drunk to be proper, and the kind of uneventful story, but unlike most of these, it's 100% true. This happened in Weston, Florida.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel as more Greentext will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.